Hi, good afternoon. Today, I'm going to uh, read to you a dream that I had last night. Now, normally, I do not share dreams. I certainly don't interpret other people's dreams, but I'm going to share this dream and interpret it for you and talk about the active imagination that came to my mind when I started to follow that after I woke up. And so part of this will be here on this channel, and the main part of the active imagination is going to end up on the political psychology uh, site, and you will be able to find the link to that. Um, you'll be able to find the link to that on the description of this video once it posts. And then what I'm going to do is read the rest of the active imagination over on the political site. And thank you. Um, so I thought this was an interesting dream, though, and I'm going to share it with you because it is good news about my granddaughter. Um, so the dream begins. Day 1. I am in Tokyo on a business trip. On day 1, I have to take a bus from a downtown hotel to a modern train station in the north side of the Tokyo Loop, but I call it the North Station in the dream. I take the bus and have a nice chat with the bus driver. He asks me what the locals think of a gaijin, foreigner, in a bus in their community. We arrive at the modernist North Station and I go in. Day 2. So this is a skip over into the second day. I have to take the same bus, but almost miss it at 8:30 a.m. the bus because I have to go back into the hotel to use the toilet. Finally, I managed to get in line for the 8:30 a.m. bus, which departs from an island in the middle of the street. I'm having a nice chat about the trip with the bus driver. I have said, possibly in Japanese, that I have lived in Japan 8 years. Then I realize I've missed an entire period of time, and it is actually 13 years. I think I am saying this to a seatmate who is talking with me. Then the driver asks me, if we are at the right North Station, and I say yes because I recognized it from the day before, and this is a different driver. As I am getting out of the bus, a tiny little girl in a frilly dress, she's from a Mormon group, falls into the stairway behind me, and she can nearly fall out of the bus under the glass door of the bus. I call to the driver, and he is coming to get her, and the Mormon family comes to grab her and pull her back into the bus. I begin walking to the train station. That's the end of the dream per se. Now, in this part of the dream, I interpret the little girl as my new granddaughter who arrived 4.5 weeks early. And obviously, in my unconscious, I'm worried about her survival. And I had my first daughter, not her mother, but her aunt, was born at 30 weeks. She was nearly 10 weeks early, and so weighed only 2.5 pounds when she was born, and spent 6.5 weeks in the intensive care unit. And so I'm worried about this little girl who I know is in the intensive care unit. But the Mormons in this dream, um, I would say that the driver in this dream represents the God image or the self, and the Mormons in this group represent my youngest daughter and her husband, who are a very good family. And I get that connection because when I was in Tokyo, I knew a Mormon family and they had very good family values. Um, in my dream here, the Mormon family, the good family, has grabbed her and pulled her back on the bus. And as I said, the driver represents the self, and the bus represents life. So, the prophecy of my dream is that my granddaughter will be fine. She's going to survive and uh, come back, come into life, which is on the bus. But mind you, in this dream, I've gotten off the bus. And so then I wanted to find out what was going to happen because I realized um, that the bus is life and that my granddaughter has been pulled back into life. So I decide to figure out what happens to me because I've gotten off the bus. And so um, I decide to enter back into the dream theater, if you will, and see what happens next in the form of an act of imagination. And I'm going to read to you a couple paragraphs of this act of imagination, but then you're going to have to switch over to our political psychology channel because some of the things that happen next are quite political. So I'll just read to you as a bit of this, though. So I enter into the act of imagination because I'm wondering what happens next after the little girl is saved and after I've gotten off the bus that represents life. As I'm walking away from the bus, I wonder what that was all about, and I realize it was about my new granddaughter and her precarious start in life. But I also realize that because of the North State train station, I have been commuting since yesterday to someplace else. I get on the train and we're pulling out of Tokyo. All of the houses are black and white, very low to the ground, and I realize that they are gravestones. I see ahead a very large snow covered mountain and an enormous tunnel through it. As we enter the tunnel, we are floating into the cosmos. Now, um, and the passengers in the train are headed to their stars, and I'm headed to my star. And um, I'm going to stop at that point and just ask you if you're interested in this story further. Please go over to my political psychology channel. That's a different channel. I will provide a link to it in the description of this particular video after I've read the rest of this act of imagination into it. That will probably take 30 to 60 minutes from now. And the going to the stars and headed for my star, Dr. Jung um, did, obviously, this is a suggestion about death. And Dr. Jung had talked about everyone having a star and the blue star and various things like that in the Red Book. And there's a new television series called Messiah. And my wife and I have watched the whole first season in the last week, and we found it very, very interesting. um, and very well done. Um, and in the first episode of Messiah, he, the person who's playing the Messiah, tells a young boy that everyone who dies goes to a star. But I'm not going to tell you more about it than that. And that's where the image of the stars and the passengers headed out on the train to their stars came from. And so I'm going to terminate this at this point and invite you over to the Political Psychology channel in about 30 to 60 minutes. Talk to you then. Bye.